But I think if you look at your marketing in that order, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can make sure that you're setting up the right foundations to grow from so that you have an asset that gives you return that allows you to scale.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Now, let me tell you a little bit about my guest today. Callum Armstrong is a marketing coach and social entrepreneur who has spent over 6 years building and exiting multiple companies. He currently runs Paste and Publish, a content marketing agency where he coaches B2B service businesses on how to achieve sustainable marketing results. In addition to his work in marketing, he is also the founder of Conservation Amplified, a charity that uses content to highlight environmental efforts. Listen to today's episode to learn from Callum how to develop an effective B2B marketing strategy using simple, actionable steps and gain insights into how empathy-driven marketing can create lasting customer relationships. So Callum, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Candy. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited to chat marketing and B2B business growth.
It's going to be a great topic with tips, to help the entrepreneurs. But before we get into questions that I have prepared for you, I would love for you just to tell me your journey. How did you really become this marketing coach, and how did you become a social entrepreneur for the companies that you've created?
Yeah, awesome. Great question. I like to preface this with, this is like a zoomed out version. So when I hear someone on a podcast, I think, wow, you're doing all this amazing stuff. But this has happened over about 6 years. I got into business in about 2018. Before that, I was a salesperson. I had a marketing degree. I was traveling around, but I realized that there was a need to restore our native environment in New Zealand, so our native forests. And as I was backpacking, doing my OE and traveling, I found this plant called manuka. You might have heard of the manuka honey. It's quite popular all around the world, but I was looking at the oil which comes from this plant, and I found all these crazy health benefits. But when I dug deeper into it, I found that this plant restores ecosystems and it creates the conditions needed for restoration. Long story short. So I came back home. I started this skincare business called Manuka Essentials, and we were putting native plant extracts into various consumer products. The idea being that if we can make it more profitable for landowners to plant native forest on their land, we would see the country turn back into native forest over a medium to long-term period of time. So I was going away and doing that, and to finance that, I was doing marketing, consulting, and coaching. Contracting. So I had a few clients where I would write them blogs, websites, emails, newsletters, social media posts, guidelines, lead magnets, that type of thing. And I didn't really want to do it at the time, but it was one of those areas where the world keeps bringing it back to you. So I kept trying to push my work away, but people kept asking me for more work, and I've got limited availability. Put the price up, and people just kept saying, "That's fine. We just want to work with you." So people kept asking me to build an agency. I had no interest in building a marketing agency, and then the lockdowns hit in 2020, and my skincare business was deemed non-essential, so I had to stop it over the lockdowns. I went to zero temporarily. And at the same time, my clients, some of them were going global, they were growing really fast, and they said, "We really want you to build an agency. We'll give you these lucrative contracts, etc." And I kind of said, "Okay, fine, I'll start an agency. I've got some friends that want to work for me, and we'll do this." So I did that, grew that to a team of about 9 people over the following 18 months. Also, in my crazy state, I opened up a retail shop for a different company, and we were selling various wellness products, and exited that. And after 5xing it, and started a charity called the Reforestation Fund, which we rebranded this year into Conservation Amplified, which is there to help plant native forest, and now we use our marketing content skills to tell the stories of people that are helping nature and doing conservation. So this was like all at the same time. And 18 months later, I was a bit burnt out. I was a bit disenfranchised with the agency model. Agencies are a really good thing, but it's just not my place in the world. And I thought, well, what do I actually want to do? I like my marketing skills. I really enjoy marketing, but this whole scaling up service delivery just isn't my place. So I thought, well, I really enjoy coaching my team. I got more joy out of seeing my team, my staff upskill and deliver really good work and grow in their careers than I did out of most things at work. And half the time when it came to strategy, I would just do it for the clients for free or for potential clients, just because I got so much joy out of it. I just wanted to do it. So I thought, well, if I became a coach, I could actually be paid to help people upskill and do the strategy. And the other thing was, running an agency, I found that we would deliver this really good piece of content, or we would manage your content. But the moment the work and the income for us or the cost for the client stopped, the deliverables and the results stopped. Sure, they kept getting SEO results, they kept getting customers from the work we did, but that was pretty much when it ended. So I thought, well, instead of, I like to think of the bakery analogy. Instead of giving you a loaf, I'd rather give you a bakery so that you can make loaves forever. And so that's kind of how I evolved into becoming a coach. A lot of water under the bridge and other things that happened in that time, but that's essentially how I've got to where I am today.
Perfect. Well, and you have this analogy that fishing and online marketing are similar. So I would love for you to talk about, how that is and what are the lessons that they can learn from your analogy.
So I'm in New Zealand. We are at the bottom of the earth. We're surrounded by ocean, and so fishing's a big part of our life. So it's quite apparent. You can probably tell by the Kiwi bird painting behind us. We call ourselves Kiwis. In fishing, there's really 4 stages to it, regardless of what type of fishing you're doing. First, you need to know, what type of fish am I going to catch? Am I catching a big tuna, a big finfish? Am I catching a snapper or a kahawai or a squid, something else? To catch that fish, what is my approach? Am I going to use a net? Am I going to use a rod or a lure? Where do they hang out? When do they eat? You have all these questions that come into your mind before you can actually go out and set up your equipment. But once you have an idea, you have a hypothesis of this is where they're going to live, this is what they're going to do. The next stage is that you get your equipment set up. Then after that, you go out and go fishing. You don't expect that you're going to catch every fish in the ocean on the first go. I mean, that would be unrealistic. But you expect that you're going to test stuff and you're going to improve and learn and grow. So you put something out there, you test it. You talk to other fishermen, you try different things, you double down on what works, and over time you get better at fishing. It's the same with digital marketing. So in digital marketing, or in marketing in general, you need to know your ideal customer. What are their problems, their pain points, their objection, the competition, etc. What is your offer? How is your offer the perfect fit for them? Where are they hanging out, and how are you going to get them as customers? That's your strategy. Next up, the second stage, just like getting your fishing rod and your net and your tackle ready, you need to have the right equipment. Whether that might be a good website that clearly talks to their pain points in your offer. It might be a lead magnet to attract leads. It might be ad accounts set up and analytics properly configured, your social setup. There can be a lot of different things depending on your business. But you need the right foundations in place before you go out and promote. And then you start doing marketing. But I think a lot of people expect that they're going to put some message out there and they're going to scale up their business on the first try. And usually that's not the case. Sometimes it is. But you try things. You test different things and you double down on what works, which is the third and fourth stage of fishing. So it's very similar. And I see people maybe over-investing in a fancy website but not promoting it, or promoting a terrible message and wondering why people aren't getting on board. But I think if you look at your marketing in that order, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can make sure that you're setting up the right foundations to grow from, so that you have an asset that gives you return that allows you to scale.
So when I read your bio too, I mentioned you do like business to business type of marketing too. Like, can you talk to the listener and maybe explain what a difference might be between if they're doing business to customer directly versus like a business to business marketing?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I think business to business is Generally, it's pretty much always solving a problem. You're a bookkeeper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do people hire you because they want to have a friendly conversation or because they want their books done?
They want to have an accurate set of books so they can take it to their CPA and get their taxes done.
Exactly. Friendly conversation's nice, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately they're wanting to solve a problem, however they communicate that. And I think in business to business, we are all looking to grow, we're all looking to make returns. And so any purchase needs to be clearly solving a problem, clearly delivering value. And that can be different depending on what it is. Generally, I find in B2B, it's often a longer purchasing time frame and a larger purchasing amount. That's not always true. We buy houses and cars as consumers, but generally that's the case. So more
Mm-hmm.
strategic purchase, driven to solve a problem, often a longer purchasing time frame, not always, and often a larger purchasing value. And so there's more nurturing, more trust building, more educating before the purchase. B2C, business to consumer, obviously we buy lots of different things, so it's really hard to generalize. But there's normally a larger number of buyers simply because there's more consumers than businesses. People are, when you're directly accessing people, it's usually a simpler purchasing process. Let's say you're selling a car. It might be that the wife's buying the car, but the husband needs to have approval, or it might be for the teenage child. But of course, the parents are the ones that are paying the bill, so they need to do it. So there are, but compared to a B2B purchase, there can be many stakeholders that need their needs met and sign-offs driven and budgets allocated. So normally it's a simpler, more straightforward purchase. A friend of mine does a lot of paid media advertising, and he explained it really simply the other day. He said to me, if I'm running ads for an e-commerce store, we usually just run the ads to say buy our stuff, and then obviously there's more complexity to that. But
Mm-hmm.
when I'm running ads for a B2B company, we're looking to generate leads, we're looking to nurture people, we're looking to qualify the leads before they speak to the client. And so there's a lot more thought and a lot more just a lot more of upfront like thinking and planning and prep and improvement work that goes on compared to just get out and sell some stuff to the audience and the consumers.
Mm-hmm. So I would love for you maybe to touch on what are some of the marketing mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making when it comes to whether it's digital marketing or, marketing in general, maybe. What are those mistakes and what can they do to avoid those errors so that they can have greater success?
So the biggest mistake that I focus on, and there's a lot of mistakes, we'll make them. I still make a lot of marketing mistakes. I've done this most of my career. But the biggest mistake I see people making is investing in marketing too early if they're a small business, small to medium business. So a lot of people want to grow their business. They want to see their dreams come true. They want to get to the 6, 7, 8-figure number, whatever that is, and what that means for their lives. And often skip over what that means for the customer. So they might hire a marketing agency or a marketing employee and say, I want to grow, do some marketing, post on social, run some ads, get me some customers. But often that doesn't, that comes without first thinking, what is the painful problem our customers are solving? Are we doing a good job of solving it? Are we communicating our offer to actually what their pain points are? Do we have a good sales process so that when we generate leads, we convert them? And so what I say is, instead of doing marketing and then sales and then fulfillment, do your fulfillment really well. Get your fulfillment great. Like if your customers are doing a good job, I'm sure you must know this with your happy customers. When you do a good job, they refer you to others and they tell you what they want. If they're not happy, they'll tell you what they don't want, or they'll just leave. But get your fulfillment really good. The lifetime value of your customer is what they spend over the life of being with you. If you like get a customer and you treat them really well and you give them really good results, and they double or triple their spend over their lifetime, you can spend double or triple to get that customer in your marketing, which means you can do so much more when you invest in marketing. Once you've got that, you think about your offer, not just what are we doing, providing bookkeeping and payroll services, but how do I communicate that? What pain does that solve for you? How do I actually address the struggles that are in your life? or in your workflow related to what I'm selling. Get your sales process good so that you have a high percentage of the people that come in as leads turn into paying customers. So by that point, where you've got your fulfillment really good, you've got your sales really good, you have a high lifetime value of your customer, you have a higher percentage of customers converting, which means that you can pay so much more for every lead generated, which means that you can do so much more with your marketing. If you're trying to do it on the lowest cost, it's really hard to succeed. But if you do it on the highest value, you can do so much more and you can just succeed so much better. By that point, then you can do the 4-step fishing method. You can get your foundation set up properly, and then you can go out and promote. But I think to answer your question is that the biggest mistake is jumping into marketing without setting up those foundations of fulfillment and sales first.
Well, it definitely makes sense, because if you do have a successful marketing campaign, but then you can't support all of those orders, the services requested that are coming in, then you're going to have that negative feedback, right? And then you're going to have people talking negative about your business instead of being able to bring in that positive, experience for your customers. So I see, like you said, that is extremely important, but a lot of people don't think about that. They do think like, well, I just have to get out there and market and get my name out there, to bring in more business. But it's a great point to focus on that delivery and all your systems and making sure everything is in place, so that you can provide the most excellent service to your customer.
Yeah, look, it's so tempting to just get out there and get more customers. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But does that come at the expense of the service level you're currently delivering? And does that come at the expense of the investment into growing your team, growing the ability to actually deliver? The customers don't, unless you're selling real estate and it's a one-off purchase, customers or some really high-ticket item, your money is made in the lifetime of the customer, not in the first transaction. And so the more you can optimize for having a really high-value lifetime, which comes from doing amazing work, the more you're going to succeed and grow and bring your dreams to life.
So now if someone is hearing this tip and they're like, okay, I'm going to focus on getting everything in my business set up properly so that when those leads come in, we can effectively, do the job and have excellent service. But they've got that down now and they're ready to start doing that marketing and reaching out. What should they focus on then to build their presence before really spending a lot of money? Like, are there some resources they can do without a lot of cost that will also help them get the word out?
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of different ways you can get customers, and it really depends on your specific situation. What is your industry offer, your problem you're solving? How fast do you want to grow? Do you want to put lots of money into it and get it done quickly? Or are you happy to maybe make it take a bit longer but not spend much or any money? Is it going to be you doing it or someone else? Are you going to employ someone? Are you going to learn it yourself and get a coach? Or just chew glass and staring into the abyss, figuring it out? Or are you going to outsource it to an agency? If you're outsourcing it to an agency or a contractor who's managing it, you have to ask these questions. But I think, and this is where getting some good advice can help. But I think as far as the action goes, there are generally 3 ways that you can get your message out there. The first one is owned media. So this is essentially media is content, media is messaging, media is the information we interact with online. And you can either own your media, so that would be blogs, your email list. You could argue that your social followers is owned media, although there's a bit of contention there. You then have paid media, so this is media that you pay for. You're renting an audience's attention, so you could put your information, your adverts onto Google, onto social media, depending on where your audience is. You could sponsor newsletters, sponsor industry publications. Basically, you can pay to get in front of people and hope or work towards ensuring that the amount that you pay is a very small percentage of the amount you receive in sales. Or the third option is earned media. So essentially, you are earning the right to be in front of an audience. This can be like a collaboration. It can be like a referral partnership. It can be like a number of other things. I think if you're not wanting or not able to spend lots of money, and you want to get results relatively quickly, earned media is usually the best way to go, because owned media is great. You own this asset, you own this intellectual property, but it takes time. Paid media works if math works, but it costs money and there's quite a bit of financial risk that you can put yourself under. Whereas if you're earning the audience, it's about building relationships, and there's strategic benefits outside of just building that relationship, outside of the referrals. So, for example, in your bookkeeping business, I would say, can you go to CPAs that don't do bookkeeping and ask them if every time they get a customer that has a shoebox full of receipts that's a mess, can they just give it to you to get the job done? Can you go to business coaches or financial coaches who don't want to do the bookkeeping, but they have customers with a mess of a financial book? So ask who has your audience, who has the audience of people that you want to reach, especially an audience of people that are already really facing the pain of the problem you solve. That is a hassle for the person that you want to partner with to solve it, or they just don't solve it. Because then you can have a really relationship where them promoting or referring you or sharing it with your audience is like solving their problems or solving their audience's problems, and you benefit with growth. Yeah, so I think that's probably the best way to start. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean having a fancy social campaign and fancy website can do, but ultimately it starts with human relationships. I think people like to underinvest in their marketing and then hope that it works, whereas I like to say just do the thing, pick the lowest hanging fruit that's going to get you return sooner, and when you're ready to invest in owned and paid media, do it right. And there's a real cost to that, but there's a real return on that. It can take time and it can take larger investment amounts, but it's worth it. But don't do that too soon. Like, start with the relationships.
Right. Someone was actually asking me through LinkedIn. There was a student who's going to school and learning finance and was asking me actually, like, well, how do you find your customers, and, who are the ideal people that you work with? And, do you have to have, SEO for online? And actually, I was talking about the relationships. It comes back to that too, where I said too that I have built relationships with people and they know the service that we provide. And if they have a customer that comes in, so if we serve the same type of customer and that customer has an issue, that business banker can say, oh, you're looking for a loan, but your books aren't, in order. Well, I know a bookkeeper that can help you, or things like that too. And so investing in those relationships and really like caring about the people as well as a person, as well as just in business, I think definitely is one of the best ways that I have seen personally for my own business too, in terms of building that network of potential, business that can come your way too. So do you want to maybe talk to the entrepreneur who's listening and is trying to figure out, like, well, who should I build those relationships with, or how do I go about doing that versus just seeing them at a networking meeting, just saying hi, right? Do you have any tips on how to nurture those types of relationships?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think, like, with a caveat, partner marketing isn't, or relationship referral marketing, whatever you call it, isn't perfect for every business. For B2B and B2B service in particular, it's great. We spend 8 hours plus a day at work. But if you're selling, I don't know, t-shirts and trinkets to consumers, it's not necessarily relevant. Although I guess you could call influencers a consumer version of that. So some tips on how to nurture those relationships. I think the first thing is identifying where to spend your time. Like, where are you, which relationships are the right ones to begin with? Because if you get the wrong relationship, no matter how much polishing you put on that relationship, if they don't have your audience and they don't have a good fit, it's not going to result in any business. So the question is, who is your audience? Coming back to step one of the fishing method, who is your audience? What are their pain points? What are their objections? What are their alternatives to solving it with you? And where do they hang out? Who do they listen to? So which type of companies actually have your audience in their audience? That might be like a CPA who doesn't do bookkeeping, but you wouldn't want to do a CPA that offers bookkeeping, because why would they give you leads? So that's an example. Once you've identified some good potential relationships, I would make a list, 10, 20. You don't have to have much more than that. and rank them based on like who is going to be the best to start with. Start with one relationship, maybe start with it reaching out to 3 to 5, but just get the basis right first. So, who's the easiest for me to access? Do I have a personal connection or someone close to me that can introduce me to them? Do they have my audience? Like, is this an absolutely yes, a great fit, or maybe it might be worth having a chat? Pick the low-hanging fruit that's going to be an easy one to start with, because you want to get your message right with them. Keep in mind that like people don't want, in these types of relationships, they want trust, and trust doesn't have to be this super polished sales pitch. Just be human, be yourself, be kind and generous. Keep in mind that they've actually got their own business to run. They've got their own priorities. So make it clear when you're talking to them what's in it for them. Don't just ask, can you give me this? Can you give me that? Like, actually pitch in terms of solving their problems. Expect that sometimes they can get leads straight away. Sometimes it can take a long time. It really depends on the conversations and the relationships and the nature of where those people are at, and it's different for everyone. And then just keep trying, and if things don't work, ask questions. Why hasn't this worked? Ask yourself, but also ask the person you're talking to. If they're a half-decent person, they're going to tell you, hey, this isn't my priority, or I don't think your offer's worthwhile, and they might not say it directly like that, but from there, think about your offer. So think about how can you improve it. It might be that you need to change the way you deliver your service, or it might be that you just need to change the way you communicate what you're offering, and let that refine. And then lastly, give them an incentive. This can be a financial incentive, like we sometimes give money for leads, sometimes we'll give gifts. It depends on the relationship. Some people that have referred me business, I've offered to give them the commission and they're almost offended by taking it. And they say, no, I just want to help you. Or they might say, just send me a bottle of wine. You don't have to do any particular incentive, but give them a reason. It might be that you give them a free consultation if they refer you a customer. But don't try and make a whole offer stack before you've built the relationship. Build the relationship and just see what people like. And they might not even want anything. It might be that you're just solving their problem. But does that kind of answer the question of where to start?
Sure. Yes. I think I just wanted, especially when people are newer, they don't necessarily know what they should be doing. And there's so much that you could be doing in marketing. And, we were talking about online marketing too, but obviously that's more relationship marketing and face-to-face and meeting people. And I just wanted them to have an idea of different ways that they could build relationships or do their marketing online, to attract their customers in the long run. So thank you for sharing that.
Also, don't try and do too much at once. If you're doing relationships and partners and referrals, get that right and get that performing before you start your SEO or your ads or something. Yeah, because if you do too much at once, it's a surefire way to fail at all of it. But if you do one thing right, you can put resource in place and move on to the next thing.
Exactly. So I was going to say that I know we're running close to the end of time we have together. So I wanted to ask if you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners. And if they want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I provide marketing, coaching, and consulting services. If you're a B2B service and you want some help with the marketing, you're like, I don't know where to start, or I've got a team and I don't know how to improve, or I'm performing, but how can I perform better? Or any point along that journey, I'm happy to help. Start off with an initial consultation, and we've got various ways to work together from there. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. Otherwise, get in touch with me via www.pasteandpublish.com. If you're interested in the environmental side of things, we have a really cool comms charity and podcast at conservationamplified.org. So if you need help, reach out. But I hope that you found this guidance and this podcast helpful anyway.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Callum, for being a guest on my show and talking on this topic. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed our discussion.
Cool. Thank you, Candy. Likewise.
And to the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.